We are live. Welcome everyone, and especially welcome to the members of the Alliance of British Clock and Watchmakers. Today we are doing our fourth Open Dial event, and a big thanks to the sponsors of this event, Eclectic Man. Without them, this event wouldn't be possible, so a big thanks to them. And if you're interested in interesting, rare watches, then do check out Eclectic Man. Today we are talking with George Bamford, the founder of Bamford Watch Department, the founder of Bamford London, and an avid watch collector. I'm your host, Adrian Barker, and I run a watch YouTube channel where I document my personal journey of exploring watches. It's nothing more complicated than that. So if you like watches, if you like cinematography, check out Bark and Jack on YouTube. They're my little plugs. And if you want to get involved in this event, there's going to be a little comment section on the side of this microsite that you're watching this on. And to kickstart that off, why don't you let me know what is on your wrist? I'm wearing a CWC G10. This is at the moment, my only British made watch. And for those who know this watch, this is an actually issued watch. It was issued to someone in the Royal Navy back in 2004. That's enough of me rambling. Let's get George on and have a chat with him. George, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely amazing. You need a Bamford on your wrist, but anyway, no.
Yes, I do.
Just one of those things that I wanted to kind of start at. But really, really nice to meet you. And this is going to be absolutely amazing. And I have got launched today the Bamford B347 Aqua Blue, or Bamford Aqua Blue. So just kind of, I can't wait to see what everyone else has got on their wrist.
Oh, superb. I'm waiting to see what the comments are coming through. But before we wait for those comments to come through, where are you, George? Where are you in the country? You in London?
I'm at the Hive in London. That's our Mayfair townhouse. And it's just behind the Dorchester. And this is, I'm in client room 2. And
Lovely.
it's so nice to be here. And I know that we're not in person, but it is so nice to actually be talking to you. I've been admiring Bark and Jack. It is such a cool thing. The photography, the filming. Now, please be nice to me on this. I mean, like, this is one of those things that I'm like, please, I love what you do. You've got to be no. But really,
George, you've won me over. I've been following you for about 5 years, and I have a passion about cars and watches, and I know that taps in heavily into what you do. We've got a couple of watches come through. Someone's got an Omega Speedmaster Sapphire. There'll be a Sapphire 70. Oh, a Ferrer. They're doing some pretty cool stuff. A Blancpain Chronograph Tourbillon. Luminex. Some people. A Blancpain Chronograph Tourbillon. That's
wow. And someone just dropped the mic on everyone and just gone, I'm stopping now. It's like,
a Black Bay GMT. That's more my level. Navitimer. Oh, brilliant.
Navitimer. One of the first ever watches I worked on. I love the Navitimer.
Oh, we're going to have a big old chat about the watches that you work on. And talk about that. George, why didn't you have quite a few contrasting elements to what you do within the watch world. Do you have something that summarizes that? How do you explain what you do with watches?
Oh Christ, that's kind of stopped me in my tracks. What do I do?
Sorry.
I'm an absolute geek for watches. I love watches, and I love working with watch brands, doing my own designs. I think for me, I watch your videos all the time, and you have the same experience, the same love for the watches. So I'm kind of that person that any watch I'm looking at, I'm like going, oh my God, this is this, could we do this? And so when I'm designing, I'm taking an existing watch like the Monaco and saying, what would I love it to be like? And so that's kind of how I start off. So it's probably I'm kind of putting my fancy on watches that I love. And then Bamford London is really me designing me. It's what actually, if I was going to do a watch with a brand new case, what would I create? How would I create it? I love weird watches. So I'm going to plug something because you plugged yours. I'm plugging, I have a little podcast and it's all about oddball watches, but I love odd movements. So I love split second chronos. I love single push chronographs. I love things that are just a little bit crazy. And that's kind of where I sit on that. And so I'm living out my perfect watch fantasy at the moment of kind of working with some of the best brands and also building my own watches, and then kind of working on some iconic pieces as well, and just going, I pinch myself every day.
Oh, amazing. Yes, and if I'm honest, my feeling towards you was nothing but envy.
Oh,
Just straight jealousy, because well, everyone will see as we go through these videos, but you get to play and do stuff to watches that I think us normal people can just dream of. Before we look at the first video, I just want to do quick shout outs to some of these watches that have come. We've got, someone's got an Hermes Slim de Hermes, which is lovely.
wow.
IWC Petit Prince, Seiko Tuner, a Patek
Ooh,
Philippe
Tuner.
5146J, and a Breitling Bentley.
Ooh.
That's amazing. It's
That's
really.
one of the most unusual case back, that Breitling Bentley.
I haven't seen them, but there's a
Oh,
Tissot
you've got-
PRX.
Oh, you've got to look at the back. Okay, sorry, I can geek out on all of this. The more you tell me, the more I'm going, oh my God, that's awesome. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? So
It's lovely to see such a broad range. But let's jump into the first video and see part of your creative path when it comes to thinking about watches and engaging with your clients.
Welcome to Client Room 1 here at Bamford Watch Department. This is the Hive, and when we started out Bamford Watch Department, that is now 20 years ago, I always had in mind this room to design clients' ultimate watch. For me, I believe in personalisation, I believe in uniqueness, and I believe that we shouldn't be the same as everyone else. So I designed this room to kind of create that wonderful vibe where you can actually design on screen and create your ultimate watch. And it was just such a vision I've always had, is to create a room where it didn't feel like it was about sales. It was more about just talking and talking about watches. So this is where I'm so happy to be showing you our Client Room 1. So 20 years ago, I started with an idea, a watch that I really wanted to create. I got given a Tag Heuer Monaco, and I wanted to create the Dark Lord. As you know, that is one of the holy grails of watches. So I took the regular Monaco. I know it could be sacrilege to do this. And I found a coating company, and I coated it, and I made it black. Did have still the blue dial on it, but that was the start of my business. 20 years ago, it was Hotmail. It was, you know, hey, can we create the business? And that is what we did. People went, oh my God, I want that watch. And it started snowballing. Can you do it? Can you create it? Can you do personalization? Individuality. And that is where I think that we all have our own individual style. We have our own individual look. And I think that's why the watch world has bloomed recently with these great designs, great watches. But personalization is core of my business. It's not a new idea. 1920s, you think about Bentley, you could go and get your wonderful body of the Bentley created by someone else, but it's still called a Bentley. So personalization has been key. And I think we went through this whole thing about built-in obsolescence, the next, the new. And personalization creates that thing that is yours. It's your piece. So that was where I started with the business. Yes, there's some old photographs behind me, some of our great watches that we have created. And we worked with some amazing brands, and we still work with some amazing brands. I pinch myself every day. I'm working with Tag Heuer, where when I first started out, I just created this watch for me. Now, if you remember, 20 years ago, this was all about bling. So black was opposite to bling. And I think that was always that thing. Now, I love black because it always makes me look skinnier. But I also love black because I think it is very, very beautiful in how it works on the different edges of the case. So I always love seeing a watch in black. So those are the things for me. When we started out the business, I never thought it would be here today. And it is. And that is one of the great things. And it is all down to our customers. Our customers can get on without us. We cannot get on without them. So they are at the heart of this business. And that is why this client room and our other client room are specifically designed for our clients to inspire, to create something for them that is theirs. From their initials on the dial to changing the date wheel to a roulette date wheel. Everything is about personalisation, and that is at the heart of our business.
I love that room. It kind of just, you can't help but feel creative. I haven't even been there and I feel creative just looking at it, all the little gadgets everywhere, and it just
well, you've got
full
to
of inspiration.
You really
I'd love
gotta
to.
come.
I'd love to. I'd love to have a big longer chat geeking out about all the watches. We've got a question that's come in from Robbie, and it's about your customizations. What is the most challenging / favorite customization that you've done?
Oh my God. Wow. I always go, it's the one that I'm doing right now because it is the one that's in front of me. But we've had some amazing ones. We've had one that has taken almost a year of kind of going back and forth, getting the right color, getting the right design. We've just done one that matched a client's car. So we did the Speedo, we matched the hand of the Speedo, and we matched the colors, and he had this amazing seats, and they were 3 different colors. And so we did that on the sub dial. It is something that I'm like, it's in my head today because it's one of those, and it's such a cool car and such a cool color. And the client has spent years trying to restore this car to a perfect thing. And he was just like, no, I want to have a watch that matches it. So for me, that was something that is memorable because we delivered it just a few weeks ago. We've just done another one that's coming through. We've got some crazy colors coming through, but also then we've done something recently where we've etched out or engraved out of a plate for the dial a wonderful Arabic saying, and it was just beautifully done. And it was something that was raised, and it just looked beautiful because you had the contrast of a matte black below and then this wonderful kind of gold popping through, and it just looked stunning. So that's awesome. That was something that kind of, it was a hard project. I mean, really hard project. It took us probably, we normally say 6 to 8 weeks to turnaround time. And this probably took us best part of about, I don't know, 3-4 months,
oh, wow.
5 months. You know, it took us a long time to get the right artisan, the right saying, the right everything for this client. But it worked really, really well. And it was one of those that I loved doing.
That's awesome. And that process, along with the room that you have, it reminds me of, I visited the Rolls-Royce factory down south, and they've got a similar concept of, they had a room with a Gibson Les Paul in the corner. They had all these Warhol paintings and things, and it just screams creativity, but it's also a similar mindset of, we can do anything.
Yeah.
If you want this within your car, then we can do it. And it sounds like a similar ethos with or mindset that you have of, we can do anything.
We've matched so many things. I mean, horse racing silks, and they'd come off the jockey, and I didn't know it was unlucky to wash the silks, but they were all muddy and they arrived with mud on them, and we had to match the color. And I said to the client, I said, shall I wash them for you? No, it's unlucky. And we were like, but we're trying to get the color, and it's kind of between kind of, I would say mud and the color, and then mud, and it was like, how can we get the perfect color for this client? And it was just, but I think that's where we have to be. Everything has to be about personalization, individuality. We live in a mass market world, and that's something that I think is, there's so many watches that look the same. I mean, you've talked about it a few times where it's the same as someone else and people know about them. I mean, you can YouTube most serious watches out there. And this is making it yours, individual. And I think that's where people then go to town and say, I want the color this, or I want to do this, and that's the great thing about personalization, is it makes it individual. You know, as you asked everyone to put their wrist, what's on their wrist today. And I just thought that was awesome, because when you've heard some of those watches, I'm like going, I haven't seen that watch, or I want to know about that watch. And I think that's the great thing, is the odd watch, not the normal, is a great thing. And I think that's what this whole community is about, is the British watchmaking, and things that are kind of the unknown, the brands that need the love, the brands that are actually doing some so cool things. And I think that's the awesome thing.
And when it comes to your customizations and you're playing around with watches, how's it been when you've customized an iconic watch? You mentioned about your Monaco. No doubt you've customized something like I know you've customized Submariners and things like that. And has there been any pushback from the community for modifying a watch that is possibly perceived as?
I've had multiple pushbacks. Look, we all have. I mean, you have, I have. You know, if you're doing anything in this world, there is always someone that's going to hate. There's always someone. There's always going to be a troll, to a degree. And for me, you know, I'm one of these people that I'm very lucky. I'm very, very lucky at the moment, or I'm very lucky that we have been embraced by some major watch brands and working with them. So for me, this is still, I'm getting people going, why the hell would you do that? What's this? What's that? But I think to myself is that you need a little bit of pushback to make you step up your game again. You know, in life, I think you need that. I think, you know, if you fall down and you don't know how to pick yourself back up, you know, then you're kind of going, what the hell am I doing? And this is where, for me, I really do. I love kind of looking at some of the comments and going, oh, and I go down into this wonderful deep dark chasm of kind of like, what the hell do people think? And oh my God, they don't like me. But then you know, a couple of minutes later, I'm like, come on, let's go out, let's do this. What am I, you know, what inspires me? Let's go and look at vintage watches. Let's go and, you know, take a watch to bits, have a look at it, you know, and then my brain just switches out of it and I put it into a wonderful box that's kind of like, it disappears, and I go, now let's step up the game again. And that's always my thing, is like, okay, yes, you can have negative comments, you can have people, as you said, pushback from the community. I'm probably the Antichrist in some ways, or I was the punk. But the other thing I will say to you is, it's not, I don't like that saying, I don't like being that, because I like people understanding that I love watches. For me, it makes me smile. It makes me, watches and movements and case designs and everything makes me, and that's why I think you and I are connecting, and I'm sad that it's taken this to talk to each other. I feel like, oh my God, we should have been talking a lot more, but it's one of those things where I'm like, Christ, I would love people to understand that, you know, I love watches like you do. I mean, that's the thing is, and what, you know, putting something on my wrist, I never put a watch on my wrist to show off. It's always to put it on my wrist because it's for me. It makes me happy. And I think that's the thing.
And that's what I love about as a viewer of you on content, it's easy to see something that's been put on a pedestal. I'm just going to choose a Submariner because that's the thing that comes to mind. A Submariner that's been put on a pedestal as an iconic watch, which it is, and getting grumpy because it's a hard watch to get, yet someone's had one easily enough to then customize it. But then when you hear you talk about watches, your passion is so apparent, and it's very easy to quickly change the context around what's happening. Is that we would all love to adjust something about a watch. And IWC, for example, I'm screaming for IWC to make thinner chronographs. There's always little things with watches where we want to adjust them, and you're in a fantastic position to be able to make those adjustments. And I think that's really quite exciting. We've got lots of questions coming. Let me grab another question. This question's from Breitling Premier Pistachio, which is an absolutely gorgeous watch. I think it was launched last year or the year before, but that dial is stunning. I'll get.
Awesome.
Is there a watch that you haven't worked on which you would love to?
Well, you've just mentioned it. I mean, sorry, Breitling. You've mentioned two brands. There's two brands I'd love to work on. I'd love to work with. You know, for me, I want to work officially with them because I think that personalization has to go hand in hand with watch brands. And so there is two brands, IWC and Breitling. They're the two brands that I would love to work with. I don't think I'll ever will, but I love what IWC does. I think there is something very, very cool about IWC. I think that personalization is something that as a brand we're jumping into, and that's something for me. And then and what I mean is, as a brand, I love what personalization that could work within that brand. And then Breitling, for me, the Navitime was the first ever watch I worked on. And what I mean worked on, and everyone's probably heard the story, but 1996 was the first serious watch my father ever gave me. And I took it to bits. He gave it to me for my birthday. Actually for Christmas Day, and then Boxing Day it was in pieces. And this was a watch that was about £200 or £300. I remember my father telling me how much it was. And I had a penknife and a glass of screwdriver, and I took it to bits. And that was my first ever kind of real light bulb moment. My first ever watch was a Formula One with an luminous dial that was like the coolest. I'm sure I'd flick-flack before that, but the first ever kind of watch was that Hoya, then the first ever watch I took to bits. So if I could ever work with them, that would have been one of those things that I would have gone, yes, this is amazing.
That's awesome. And talking about personalization, let's jump into the next video, because that's what you touch on in video number 2.
Oh.
Now we're in client room 2. This is, for me, one of those rooms that creates the same vibe as client room 1. It's an intimate environment for our clients to create their personal design. During lockdown, I've actually been using this also as our podcast room. Now that is called GB Talks, and it's all about oddball watches. Now I'm not promoting it, but you can see, if you listen to the podcast, you can see and hear some of the things that I've been talking about, some of the watches I've been loving, with some great people. I also wanted to talk to you about something else, Bamford Aqua Blue. This is a colour that is our signature colour. I love colour. I know I'm always in black, but I love colour. And for me, our Bamford Aqua Blue was always the first colour that we created at Bamford Watch Department. And that was something that would pop off, and it would pop off black. We looked at other colours to start off with, but we really thought that Bamford Aqua Blue was the right thing. I love blue. So for me, this whitey blue colour is something I was so passionate about creating. It took us about a year to create the right colour. Now, when I talk about personalisation, I think to myself is, how do we create personalisation? How do we make it so then someone can actually feel, touch, look? So we always have some watches to show them. We always have the colour charts, but we have actually little discs to show clients, and we show them how it's making. So it is great advice. The other thing is, when we talk about personalisation, it's not my taste, but it's the client's taste. So it is about creating their watch. So it may not be some of your taste, but it will be a client's taste. And I always think that is the key to us. I had this wonderful client, and he was sitting in this room. That's why I wanted to come and talk about this right here. Sitting in this room, and he had these two colour combinations. And I kept on saying to him, I said, look, this will not work. It will not be right. And he went, trust me, it will. And every time, and we went through the whole process, and I was saying, hey, look, it doesn't, every point until we'd made the watch. And right when we made the watch, I went, wow. And then he arrived, He gave me his business card, and one side had one colour and the other side had the other. And I went, it's yours. It is unique to you. It is your watch. And that describes personalisation. It creates something that is unique to that customer. I know that he's so proud because every year he sends me a wrist roll or a wristwatch shot saying, look, I'm still wearing it and I love it. So for me, that makes me smile. And when I see a watch on someone else's wrist and it's been created by us, or we've designed something like with Tag Heuer, then for me, that is it just makes me smile. And that is something that for me is key. Now I want to take you to my wall of clocks. This always makes me smile. And it is one of those things that you think about how cool wall clocks are. As I said to you, I love flea markets. And I found this one in a flea market years ago, and I always wanted it to be up there. There is some great wall clocks out there, and every brand has created it, but I always wanted to have a wall of wall clocks. I mean, there's some really cool brands. Of course, there's the great British brands, but it is one of those things. Zenith rocks, their wall clock is amazing. Bulgari, all of these brands have done some wicked wall clocks, and it started that light bulb moment. I love collecting, and like you, I love this discovery, finding them. And so for me, some of these I've found, some I've been given, and it has been one of those things, hey, put it up on your wall. And that is what I love. Throughout this hive that is the Bamford Watch Department building, you will see that I collected loads of little things. And they're all watch memorabilia. Now, to most people, it's a wall clock. But to me, these are wonderful little memories. How did I find it? What did I do to find that clock? So those are the things that I love in this room. And so I wanted to show you another side to our client room.
I think we have, I think it's quite clear that we have a very similar view on watches, but I really like your point around it's the client's taste. And for me, within that clip, that kind of means that there are no wrong answers when it comes to watches. We all have an individual viewpoint of watches, and that's, I often have opinions about watches that people disagree with and they get quite grumpy about. And my thought is always, this is just how I see it. And these are just opinions. And so I love the point that it is the client's taste.
I can tell you a
That's the
story.
fun thing about it.
I can tell you a little story about a personalized piece. We did a personalized piece about 2 years ago, and the colors, the design, I was like, this is not going to work. It really wasn't going to work. It was a pink with an aqua blue. It was just like, this just doesn't work together. It looks weird, the whole thing. We were doing the design with the client here, and I was persuading him. I was just like, no, no, no. And we were going back and forth. And anyway, he was also like, look, will you do this and just get on and do this? So I was like, okay, fine. Look, you're the boss. I'm not going to judge. Judge. We did the watch, and anyway, it was all created. Came back in and put the watch in front of him, and he just went, oh my God, this is amazing. I love it. Blah, 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 blah. And I did a photograph of it, and I got a studio to do a photograph of it, and I framed it for him. And I don't normally do that, but I framed it for him because I then said to him, I said, I love this watch. I don't know why I like this watch. I love the colors. I love this. I love that. And he proceeded to hand me his business card that was the pink and the aqua blue. And I went, what? And he said, well, yes, we've changed all the colors of our business and blah, blah. And literally it was his new colors. And I was just like, I wish you'd, so, and then he went to me and said, look, I thank you so much for the image, but actually, will you put it up in your client room? And just so you know that the client's always right. And I just went, yeah, okay. And so it sits in the client room, and it's a little framed image in the client room, and it sits there, and it just tells me that my judgment isn't what, if the client wants something, he has it or she
Yeah.
has it.
That's awesome. So you started off customizing, personalizing watches in what I'd describe quite a guerrilla fashion. You had a world of watches to play with, and it wasn't an official relationship that you had with the watches. But now you're in a position where you do have an official relationship with watch brands. How did that transition feel like from a creative point of view? Because it could kind of go down two routes of you're then confined by that brand, but at the same time, you're clearly onto something great because these brands wouldn't just work with anyone. So how did that feel?
The shade and sunlight. And really it is, I was sitting in the shade. No one, I was kind of doing my own thing, and it's quite punk, as I've said before. I was kind of doing things in, yes, you said guerrilla style. It was. Now working officially with them, I've got, let's go for the Aqua Racer, talking to their R&D department. Can we do it in titanium? Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we use our flame orange? Tag Heuer's team just kind of talking to me and going, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this, and it was back and forth. And it was, there's a dial. I've been desperate to make this dial that was a solar flare dial that is on the Mr. Porter Heritage 146 that's Zenith. And I'd been desperate to make that dial, but I couldn't do it because I just didn't have the know-how inside my business. Talking to them, the head of Zenith, Roman, Julien, but also Roman, just went to me and said, yeah, let's do it. Why not? Let's do it. And so for me, I'm kind of going, hey, I'm the kid that's got I'm let into the sweetie shop. I'm let into the sweetie factory. I'm like, really, Willy Wonka's got nothing on me. I'm like, this is kind of, so the difference of kind of doing everything and kind of scanning and trying to kind of reverse engineer everything to now kind of going, well, yeah, can I get the CADs for that? Or can I do this? Or could I, it's like, I don't know, it's chalk and cheese. We did the casquette, as you probably remember, for the only watch auction. It was a forged carbon casquette. And to get that and to do it in a month and a half, build the actual watch in a month and a half, and then to build a brand new movement for the only watch auction, that was just so freaking cool to work with a brand that just goes and doing a watch that I wanted to do. The casquette is a watch that for me is just so freaking weird, but so cool. And us to actually manufacture the carbon case and the titanium case back, the leather embossed strap, everything in a month and a half. My watchmakers loved it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So
we've got some
darkness, lightness.
That's and that's awesome to hear. And it was one of those things where it's like when the Grey NATO joined Houdinki. It's like, is there going to be change? Is there difference? And then seeing how creative and broad your scope was before, that hasn't actually changed. You've done some, if I don't mean this in an offensive way, but you've done some wacky things, and it's awesome to see brands embracing that, because I think we can all see that a lot of brands are quite often stuck with what they're doing. We've got a question here from John Young, who's asked, the G-Shock, how did the G-Shock collab come about?
I got it here. How did it come about? Honestly, there's some very, very good people at G-Shock. I love G-Shock. When we talk about iconic and part of your life at childhood, the G-Shock is that. And it was one of those things that they went to us and said, there was an email that came in, and it was just like, hey, would you like to come and meet us and chat? And I was just like, yeah. And that was our kind of thing. And then, and I was mortified. And this is the weird thing. I was mortified that it sold out in 3 minutes. I was mortified by it because I was mortified because I've let down a lot of clients. I even let down my family because I thought I was going to reserve some, or at least I thought it was going to live for at least a week or 2 weeks on sell, and it didn't. And that 3 minutes, and it made me go, wow, that's absolutely amazing. And thank you very much for everyone that brought it. But then it also made me go, so there was about 20 or 30 clients that it was I think it was 12 o'clock and just 2 minutes past or 3 minutes past, it sold out. And that was in the evening or in the morning. And so we were in a place where I was just like, what the hell's just happened? And the other thing is that we had a bit of an admin error in the business and all of the stock was put on there. So I then had to try and buy some back to go and find some for friends, because I was just, so how did it come about? It came about because I think I just love G-Shock. I think there is something cool. You know, I remember my girlfriend at the time having a baby G and just going, that was just awesome. And then this G-Shock, I was just like, you have to do it. As soon as someone says, I was like, yes, can we use our Bamford Aqua Blue? Can we do? And I just, it was so nice to work with them. And they're such a cool business to work with in such a kind of geeky way that it was different to what I'm used to.
That's awesome. We've got another question from Richard, who says, can you explain the difference between Bamford London collaborations and Bamford Watch Department collaborations / limited edition?
So Bamford Watch Department, Bamford London, they're all under me, but Bamford Watch Department retail starts about 4,500 and upwards. Bamford London sits below that at about 425 and goes up to about 3,000. So that's where we look at the two sides of it. And it's not only that, it's which feels in the right way. You know, like our Snoopy watch. Our Snoopy fits on the GMT. It works on our GMT. And I don't know. I had flexibility to do the watch in that. And then working with Frank Muller, of course, that went into Bamford Watch Department, and it sat in Bamford Watch Department because it was the price point. It was the whole watch. It was an amazing piece. That was another piece that sold out in 3 days. I couldn't believe that had happened just before Christmas. And these are the things where, you know, I kind of want things to last a little bit longer, because, you know, what happens is that then I'm on, you know, going, what's next? What should we do next? Can we do this? You know, so, you know, you want something to live for a little bit of time. And that's the difference between, you know, and the two brands kind of exist alongside each other, because one is very much my design aesthetic. It's me working on my watches, my designs. The G-Shock sat in there because of price point. And then the one above that is Bamford Watch Department is working in partnership with brands and doing personalization.
That's awesome. And it's all about the watchmaking. So let's have a look at the video number 3, because that goes into a bit more detail around what goes on behind the scenes.
Now we're in the watchmakers area. I call this the head, and it is the head of the business. It is at the top of the building. And for me, I love it because it's pure white, it's clean, it's a beautiful environment with some amazing people. This is amazing. I can't believe this is here. So we have got what we start with. We take a watch, 2 pieces. This is a Zenith CP2, and one of my favorite watches. We take it we strip it down and we make it into this raw watch. And then, as you can see, the different elements that we create. And then we build it up and we personalize it for a client. And each bit is created with the client's design in mind. We've got some amazing watchmakers that really do create some great stuff, but we've also got an amazing dial people, and I've got some wonderful dials here, but I'll show you a wonderful Zenith El Primero dial. And it is very much about creating something unique. As I said to you, with the client room, and the client room is the heart of the business, but being up here is the head. You've got to have the heart and the head, and then down in the basement, it's all about stuff coming in and stuff going out. And that's why it's one building, because everything is in this hive. There is busy bees in this hive. And that is the funny story of why it got called the Hive. And my wife and I got called Mr. and Mrs. B by the builders of this, and then we called it the Hive. And I realised how apt is that name for this place, because it is busy. Everything is happening. And with the watchmakers up here, it is constantly going. Now, John, our head watchmaker, what have you got on your desk? What are you doing today?
Well, I'm just checking over a few of the new model that we launched this year, which is a B347. As you know,
yes.
So this is a model that has been designed here at
yes.
the Hive. We're very proud of it. It's got a great carbon case, monopusher movement.
I love monopusher. I kind of, you and I geek out on different movements,
Well, yeah.
And you know, monopusher is one of those. It's kind of, I know I referenced this earlier, but I love monopushers, and that's why we created this watch. And John and I, together with the team behind us, have really kind of come together and created this.
Certainly. I mean, and this is, I think every aspect of this is something that we agree on.
Yeah.
You know, we don't always agree, but...
Really? I never noticed.
But yeah, I think we're very proud of this. I think one thing that we need to mention as well is this is a specific watch that we've made for a UK client, but we've got hands and dial that are made in the UK for this, which again we're very proud of.
Yeah, so it really is, its personalisation is back at the core of this, and this is out of Bamford, London, so this is my own brand, and this is very much me creating my own watches, and the watches I want to create. And so this was very much, we wanted this kind of retro modern case, single push chronograph. I think you and I were very much onto that kind of idea of kind of playing with this idea of chronograph and kind of going back to the old stopwatches that I used to collect and creating something that was uniquely us. And forged carbon, you know, that was one of those things, Swiss made, forged carbon, and at, you know, you and I kind of argue about pricing, but I think a good price. It's got an amazing movement from Solita. So it's got the
SW510, a variation of that, yeah.
Of course you'd know that. Of course you'd know that. But it's got the SW510 movement. I love Solita, and we use it for the GMT on your wrist as well.
Yeah.
So I thought we were going to see some other watches being on your bench, but I'm so pleased that the forged carbon is here.
Yeah, I mean, this is our focus at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to lie. So I mean, we could have set it up for everything else, but this is our focus. This has proved very popular this year, and this is something that.
And this is a client's delivery, so so all hands on deck to get this done.
Yeah, these aren't just stock pieces. This is a must.
It's a must, get it done, and so that's one of our things that we've got on ours. And when I talked to you earlier, and I'm sorry, you always hate it when I jump across your desk, but I'm obsessed with our Bamford Aqua Blue, and so we did this vulcanized rubber Bamford Aqua Blue strap that is to partner up with our watches, and you can see that we've got our Bamford Aqua Blue dial. So I'm pleased you've got this on your desk, because it's quite nice to see the Bamford Aqua Blue watch in the forged carbon case. And that play of black and aqua blue is something, I mean, it is, I kind of, we wax on quite a lot about different colours, but we really do like black, but we also love colours. We love the difference of colours and popping of colours, and that's what I think a lot of clients come to us for.
I think that I mean, is an encapsulation of Bamford in just one watch. I mean, there's many watches that you could say that, but I think that is perfect almost.
It's I think we're calling it the Bamford Aqua Blue Panda. So that's kind of, that's the nickname for it. And then there will be a reverse Panda at some point. But for me, that is one of those things I just love. I love the single push chronograph. I think you and I geek out about normal chronographs and split second chronographs. I think you and I are on that. And then what is it? There's so many different timing instruments that we totally love.
Well, I mean, it's certainly your area of interest, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's something, and that's where we partner up with someone like Solita. You know, there is other watch movement manufacturers. We're not a movement manufacturer, but we know that the heart in this is great. And that's the great thing, is that you're kind of on the same thing as we love every type of movement, and we think the Sleater is a great movement.
Of course, and I think it's perfect for Bamford London, but also we work with good manufacturers for BWD as well.
Yeah. No, and that's the other great thing, is when we get a new watch in here, John kind of, we geek out. I mean, like, even some of my vintage ones, we keep them coming back and going, oh my God, how do they do this? And I mean, there was a watch that came in the other day, and it was a watch that I brought, and we just took it to bits and figured out how they did the internal rotating bezel and all these different things.
Yeah.
It was cool, wasn't it?
And I think that's and your collection lends itself to letting us explore so many ideas that you have as well, because we can get inspiration from the past as well, and from George's collection.
And it was kind of cool. I mean, it's something we'll never do, but we brought the Snowdrop in, and that I know you want to do it, but it was a Jaeger LeCoultre, and we looked at how this is an alarm watch, but we looked at how the whole of the case became the alarm. And it was cool because it was nuts how the movement comes from the top into it.
Yeah.
And those were the things. So each time we're doing something, we constantly look at what else is out there, and the knowledge of you is amazing, and the team here. I mean, we've got some of the best watchmakers I would say in the industry that are in here, and that's why they're on the top floor. It's kind of a nice view, nice kind of light.
Lovely for us. Yeah.
You know, you're not in the basement.
Well, thankfully, you've not put us tucked away in the basement. But a lot of places do.
Yeah. And that was kind of one of the things when we designed this. It was watchmakers in mind. So that was kind of the cool thing. And there's been some great fun projects. I mean, we've got some
and
awesome.
Even more fun to come. I think.
Yes. Yeah. And working on different watches. That's the great thing, is it's not one single brand. You've got such a plethora of different brands that we're working with.
Yeah, it's ideal. It's ideal here.
And it's from creating and designing, everything is kind of from here. So I spend way too long up here. I think that's probably...
That's why we're behind schedule, shall we?
Oh, okay. I didn't say it, but it's so nice being up here. Thank you, John.
Fantastic. Thanks, George.
I love how you're so respectful, George, to your watchmaker. It's like you're very aware that you're in his space, and you shouldn't be... You're touching things you shouldn't be touching.
Honestly, I think he wants to kill me some of these times. I mean, you've seen that, anyway, I know he's watching this, and they are watching this, so all three of them. And thank you, guys. I love you. You're amazing. But yeah, no, I think he's just like, oh, Christ, and but it is... The thing is, this is about the collaborative world. And I think that in my business, without great watchmakers, I couldn't do what we do. And, we've got a really good inside this team. We've got amazing people that really understand watches and understand, if we're saying, oh, can we do this? Or can we change this color? They're all on it together. It's like, and that's what I love about this. Our townhouse is called the Hive. And we are all kind of very busy, but it was never meant to be nicknamed the Hive. It was just the weirdest thing when we're building the office. So we bought the office 6 years ago, and my wife and I were called Mr. and Mrs. B. And so then this became the bee hive, and then it became the Hive. So it wasn't like we're all busy bees. We're not. It was very much it was kind of like the builder kind of said. So that's why, when you're talking about the watchmakers, I love the watchmakers. They're on the top floor of this building. They're and it is a vaulted ceiling. It's pure white and it's beautiful space, because I want them to have the best space in the building, and it really is the best floor. Yes, they have to hike up and down the stairs, but it is the best.
Sure.
I think the client rooms are beautiful, but their space is ultimate, because I wanted them to have the best space in the building.
That's awesome. I get so excited when I see that kind of investment into watchmaking in the UK, and that kind of leads on to the platform that we're on now, the Alliance. And what has the Alliance meant for you guys? Well, or maybe for you personally?
Well, firstly, it's introduced you and I. So, I mean, like, you know, as I've been told, there's now a bromance happening. I even got WhatsApped by my wife saying, hey, you've got a bromance happening. I was like, okay, yes, I've got a bromance happening. But the other thing is, this is something that, you know, Britain is an amazing powerhouse in the watch world, but we're not singing about it. And I think this is what this alliance is doing. The artisans, the independents, all of these things that you're happening, that you kind of go, British watchmaking is damn cool. We've got, you know, you think of George Daniels and you think about, you know, what, you know, Roger Smith, and you go through the history from, you know, old school cool watchmaking to, you know, Roger Smith to, then you've got future watchmaking. You've even got, you know, you've got brands like Vertex that are bringing out these kind of wonderful diver watch. You know, you've got brands that you just go, actually, this is awesome. And, you know, to work in an alliance, it just means that we've got someone that's got our back, and also on a global scale, we've got it on our back. I don't know. What do you think? I just think this is damn cool for Britain.
I was so excited when I heard about it. The more I'd learned about the watch industry, especially the Swiss watch industry, is how incestuous, or perhaps collaborative is a better way. The brands stand really strong on their own, and the brands will be very proud and say, we've done this and we've done that. But as soon as you scrape below that sometimes quite thin veneer of the brand, it is highly collaborative, and they rely on each other to create the powerhouse that is the Swiss watch industry. And it's amazing to see that mentality brought over here, and for it to be so open and transparent, and for it to be headed up by, we could kind of argue, the two ends of the watchmaking spectrum. You've got Roger Smith right at the top, and then you've got the highly commercial. Yeah, exactly, the living god of watchmaking, and they've got the highly commercial, very industrialized Christopher Ward. And so I think those guys spearheading it, and then kind of bringing everyone underneath, Fizz, Vertex, and Ordain, and of course yourselves. I think it's only good can come from this project, and it's exciting because we have such an incredibly rich heritage of watchmaking in our shores. So I'm very excited.
And that's the thing, is you say about picking away at the surface. You think about picking away at our history, Great Britain's history in watchmaking. You know, you think of GMT. I mean, like, you can just go there.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, like, we have got it here that we are very British about it, and we do not sing about it. And that's something that I think we are doing, and we're starting to do as a country, is we're now saying, hey, there is some really damn cool things happening here. And as you mentioned, Christopher Ward, you know, yes, you've got two spectrums. You've got like the superstar, and you've got another superstar of mass watches in some degree, but you've got these two superstars heading this up, and the alliance comes together. For me, this is a reference alliance as well. It's amazing, because we're now kind of going to be delving in and discussing with other brands of how, you know, oh my God, this movement, or we've got an allocation here, what can happen on that, or hands, or anything. We want as much information as possible, because for us, the more we can do here, the better it is for us. And that's where I think the alliance works very well. Is, you know, even like the quartz movement that was the Beta 21, you know, that was done on an alliance. You know, that was one of the most cleverest alliances that went across Longines, IWC. I mean, there is so many, Patek. It's dropped across so many brands, but they had their own designs, and their own identity, but it was the same movement. And I think that's also a very cool thing of what alliance could look like in the future, is this whole thing of like, here is something, what else would everyone else do with it? And I think that's something I love, the idea of this alliance, and also on a global scale, hey, I need access to this. Is the sales department, how do we help? And I think that's where we are stronger united than we are apart or fighting with each other and for the sale. If we're kind of more inclusive, and I think that's what the two heads of this have done so well.
Perfectly said. Completely agree. I'm very conscious that we're getting close to our allotted time. Guys, we've got a few questions here, which we'll do a bit of a speed fire round. We might go over, and so if you guys are happy to hang around for a few more minutes, and we'll keep nattering. But if you want to add in your questions, there's still time. We'll just blast through a few of them. There's one here that's I missed earlier on, that if it wasn't watches, then what else would you have built a business on?
Well, do you know my father? So I come from a construction industry, and my father wouldn't let me in the family business. He said, "You've got to go and learn the value of the house." So, so for me, I was a photographer to start off with, and I love photography, and I worked for magazines, and I did photo shoots, and I was a photographer. And when the recession happened, I had two businesses side by side that were working wonderfully: photography and my watches. And watches was making money. The photography sadly didn't make as much money, and so I had to stop doing photography. So probably it would have been, I would have plowed straight into photography and carried on doing photography. But my father very much, he gave me that drive. He said, look, you can't come into our business. You've got to learn about business. You've got to learn about the value of a pound. You've got to go and afford your own life, and be that person. So I think it was always, I had that drive to kind of go and make something, do something. And probably just doing something on my own, I don't think I would have been very well working for someone, probably because I'm too kind of frenetic and going at something too quickly.
It's very funny hearing you speak, because I feel like we are a very similar person with photography, watches, cars, and our inability to work for other people.
Oh, well, your photography, Jesus Christ. Every time I see your photographs of watches, I'm like going, yeah, okay. Anyway, I'll shut up on that one. I can boost you as much as possible. There is a bromance happening.
I appreciate that. There's an awesome comment from Bert saying, "You like a monopusher? ? Wearing a Christopher Ward ME109. I personally love a monopusher. I actually collect vintage stopwatches because I love monopushers."
Okay. The thing is, you've got to come to my office. I collect stopwatches too.
Really?
I've got it going up all up to the watchmaker. I've got loads of different stopwatches, and I love stopwatches. I love clocks. And stopwatches is my kind of thing. I love monopusher. The reason why I love monopusher, I just love the simplicity of monopusher. I built a watch on a monopusher. So that for me is one of those things. The B347 is a monopusher. So for me, I'm going to say, I've put my money where my mouth is. I've gone, hey, let's build one out of forged carbon. Next month, that's only in a few days' time, we'll be launching another case material on a monopusher. I love the monopusher, and I think other people are loving it because we can afford to do the next watch. So that's something that I think the monopusher is kind of like, it's the chronograph's bigger, older father kind of figure that's saying, hey, we were here before you type thing. So I kind of love it.
Oh, brilliant. Is there one person you would like to work with?
One person I'd like to work with. Honestly, I think there is some amazing people in the industry, and I think that you look at dynamic people. I'm already working with someone that totally inspires me. That's Julien Tonnet from Zenith. He's one of those superstars. Working inside Tag Heuer has been absolutely amazing. Working with Jean-Claude has been amazing. Working with all these different people have been absolutely amazing. I think externally, I look at there is some heroes in the watch world, and I think if you look at them, I mean, just to have a chat to George Kern would be absolutely amazing. Chris Granger, I think, is absolutely amazing. You think of Francois from AP. You've got all these guys that are now becoming the kind of these superstars in the watch world, and there's some amazing things. I think, it's Guy, that's the Guy Simon, that is the movement manufacturer of Tag Heuer. He is someone I love meeting. I love hanging out with. He is just an absolutely amazing person. He came up with the V4 movement, the belt-driven movement for the Monaco, and made it work. And he is just someone that I would say to you is he's kind of cool. So there's so many people. I mean, this could go on for about 10 years. I'm like, where's the Oscars thing of like, yes, mom, dad, everyone else. But yeah, that's kind of. I'll stop it on that point.
That's super. So just wrapping this up. What's next? Is there anything that you can share? Obviously, you've just launched a watch today, but are there any projects that's happening that you can give an insight to?
Can I give an insight? There's some obvious things that are happening next, and there'll be some obvious watches that you'll go, okay. We are going to be launching another watch on Bamford London, so it'll be a new case. So I've been in the process of designing, creating, and thinking about a new case. And prototypes arrived today, so that's why I'm geeking out on it. There is some other things that are going to be coming out from Bamford Watch Department. We've got a new collaboration happening with Bamford Watch Department, and then maybe later on this year you'll see something else happening. And this year, I worked out that we're launching or we're doing something every month. So there's going to be something that we're talking about. But for me, I feel sorry for my team because I run at a pace. So it's kind of like I'm already planning Christmas, and we're already shoving stuff into Christmas. But then I've asked for more and doing more, and so you can see that I love what we're doing, and I'm enjoying. I think to myself is that we've got 2 or 3 great cases out of Bamford London, and then on other watch brands where you look at what they're doing, and there's some awesome watches. So I'm kind of like, I want to work with more people. I want to do some more watches and have more fun. It's clients' demands that, are really, as I constantly say, our clients can get on without us. We can't get on without them. So it's a massive thank you to them. But it's also one of those things where you kind of go, hey, we've still got to got to push every day. That's
brilliant. George, thank you. So this has been an absolute blast. I really appreciate your time and catching up, and appreciate the Alliance for putting this on, and a big thanks to A Collected Man for sponsoring this session. George, a big thanks, buddy. This has been really good fun.
My pleasure. Thank you, and thank you to everyone that's tuned in. And hi, darling, I love you. But I'm going to say to you, as everyone that's tuned in, you rock. Thank you so much. And this has been a treat. Adrian, you are amazing. You're always amazing, welcome, George. Here. I would love you to come and hang out with me. The bromance has started with the Watch Alliance, and now it's kind of like, hey, come and hang out.
Amazing. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. The next Open Dial is going to be with Wessex Watches. The time and date will be confirmed by email. But once again, George, thank you. Alliance, thanks very much. And thanks to you guys for tuning in.